Hi, this is Don McLeod from Brampton Focus, and I'm here with Patrick Brown, the mayor-elect for Brampton. Patrick, congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's a pretty special day. There's been a lot of hard work put into the campaign. So many volunteers determined, who had so much passion for wanting to get the city back on track, and it's a huge responsibility, but I'm really excited for the challenge.
Now, you, from the time I saw you at City Hall when you were registering to run, and right up until the day the polls closed, you ran one of the most aggressive campaigns I've ever seen, and I think most Bramptonians, including Linda, ever saw. She had to play catch up, I think, with the social media and going to the events. I'd run into you sometimes on the campaign trail, and you'd tell me that you'd have 10 to 15 events that you had to go through a day. So you've been running that for like 4 months now. What message resonated, do you think, with the residents to be able to put you over the top?
Well, I think there was a sentiment around the city that City Hall was unresponsive, that City Hall was asleep at the switch, essentially, when it came to some of the major challenges facing the city. Almost, I don't know the best way to describe it, there was a sense that there was a bit of a lethargic attitude to the leadership on the challenges that were confronting Brampton. And what a lot of people said to me was, we know you're a hard worker. Everyone knows that you're a hard worker, and just like I worked hard on the campaign, what I was committing was I was going to double down on that and even work harder when it came to getting the city back on track. And let me touch upon that. What I heard was everyone in Brampton knew we had a challenge when it comes to healthcare. 60% less healthcare beds, double the wait time it emerged to the provincial average. But where was the advocacy? Where was the work? Where was the alarm bells being rung that we needed to change this? We all talk about the lack of jobs and the people fleeing Brampton in the morning to go to work on the 410, but where was any evidence of leadership when it came to going out there to hunt business, to bring business to Brampton? And so I think if you put something under a big umbrella, there was too many people at the leadership of City Hall content with where we were, while the vast majority in Brampton really felt that, no, this isn't right. We're not second-class citizens. We shouldn't have worse healthcare, worse education, worse transit. And as much as the political leadership tried to spin everything was okay, I remember the Brampton Focus debate, the outgoing mayor said, we're winning on healthcare dollars, we're winning against other communities. And I'd knock on doors and people would say, what city is she living in? We're not winning on healthcare dollars. You go to the hospital in Oakville, you go to the hospital in Georgetown. Many people have come from all over to come to Brampton. They've seen what it is like elsewhere. You can't convince someone in Brampton that their healthcare is better than other municipalities. You can't convince people that our university imprint is better than other other communities. Same thing on transit. Don't underestimate the intelligence of the people in Brampton. You can't sell them a bill of goods that isn't correct. And I think the leadership was trying to accept the status quo, but the people of Brampton are demanding much better.
So the next question is, Brampton has had this knock against it, not only for this council, but the previous council, of having a dysfunctional council. In this new term, you're going to have 4 new councillors, you're going to have 6 returning first-year councillors and yourself. How are you going to try and galvanize this council to be more forward-looking and pull together as a team? Well,
the reality is we are Team Brampton. This is Team Brampton. I don't care if you didn't support me. Right now, our only goal is getting Brampton back on track. And to everyone in Brampton, whether they're on council, whether a resident of any street, what's happened in the past is over. Right now is day one towards getting Brampton back on track, and the different perspectives, the different backgrounds, different walks of life, the different opinions, having those different thoughts together will make our end decisions stronger. I think there's been an attitude where criticism and raising different suggestions has been viewed as dysfunctional. I will welcome it as a process to get to a better decision. Let me also say this. I think everyone who was running for the right reasons. I know campaigns can be bitter, they can be hard, but I think everyone was running because they passionately love our city. This morning I got phone calls from Paul Vicente, from Pat Fertini, and the first things they were saying is, let's get to work for Brampton. they may have supported different candidates for mayor, but they were crystal clear to me this morning that they're excited to work together. And at the end of the day, any of these past municipal battles, it's over. It's time to get down to business. And I said last night in my acceptance speech that we need more Bill Davis at City Hall. And the reason I reference that, this 89-year-old legend that lives amongst us in downtown Brampton, is what I loved about him is there he was in a partisan environment at Queen's Park between 1971 and 1985. He had to go through minority parliaments, and normally political parties try to shoot each other's head off. It is, trust me, I've been there. It is vicious.
I'll take your word for it.
It is vicious. But Bill Davis became friends with his political adversaries. Bill Davis would take, when they'd raise a good idea, he would take it and adopt it as his own. I remember him saying, you need to have the courage and confidence to recognize good ideas that come from opposing corners. And there's one lesson I can learn that I want to demonstrate at City Hall from Bill Davis, is that when good ideas are raised, we're going to embrace them. No more political blinders that it's this team or that team. This is about Brampton, and different perspectives will be welcomed and embraced and appreciated.
So let's talk about some of the challenges that you're going to come up against, because there's some of those challenges are still here today. We're talking about the lawsuit that's $28 million. I know it's in the courts right now. It's been hanging over Brampton for too long. I think it's been almost 6-7 years that the southwest quarter in regards to the City Hall has been hanging over us. You also still have the LRT, or the HMLRT, that's very contentious to a lot of people in Brampton. Whether it continue up from Steeles all the way to the GO, or does it take Kennedy, McLaughlin? Some people don't want it at all. That's another contentious issue. At the same time, you have Ryerson coming into the city. You called them satellite, and it's not really a real university. Also, the funding in regards to that from the province, you figure is inadequate. I'm not even going to hospitals and beds and so on and so forth. And then you have on January 22nd, the city has to make a decision whether they're going to allow cannabis stores in Brampton. So these are some of the immediate challenges. How do you tackle, or what do you want to do? Which one do you want to tackle first?
You raised a number of issues there. On the LRT, I want to have great transit. I want to have modern transit in Brampton. Some people were having a big debate about north, south, east, west. That wasn't my issue. My issue was that we were accepting, frankly, peanuts compared to what other municipalities were accepting. And sometimes we get lost in the battle, the immediacy of the battle, where I think a lot of people in Brampton weren't looking outside Brampton to see what was being offered to other municipalities. One of the benefits I have, being a former opposition leader, is I've seen what was offered to every single city in Ontario, and Brampton was getting a raw deal. We were getting the smallest per capita investment in transit from our federal and provincial partners, the smallest. You look at Vaughan, they got offered inadequate transit, they said no, and now they have a subway. Look what happened in Scarborough. They were allowed, they were heard, and now they're getting a $3 billion subway. In what world should Brampton receive 90% less than Scarborough from our federal and provincial partners? It's just not on. And I want that transit funding, but I don't want 90% less. And here's the problem. The debates that divided us, those debates wouldn't be existent if we actually got our fair share. You wouldn't have to worry about a single streetcar going through the downtown if you actually had the funding that Vaughan or Scarborough had, because then you could have elevated and tunneled versions of that transit. I'd love to see modern transit that is above ground elevated, parts of it tunneled, that go both north, south, and east, west. And as much as that may seem like a dream right now, if we got the same per capita funding that Vaughan and Scarborough got, we could. And so my question to Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford will be, the first time we sit down, is, do you value the residents of Vaughan and Scarborough and Hamilton and London and Ottawa more than you do the good people of Brampton? Because the way you've allocated transit dollars suggests that we're second-class citizens, and we're not.
So let me get back to the question in regards to those challenges. What's immediate for you that you see that you'd like to tackle within your first 100 days? Where would you like to be? And what would you like to say after your first 100 days that I have done this, 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 and this?
Well, obviously, the message needs to be sent to provincial and federal governments that we're now going to be very clear on what we accept in per capita funding on transit, healthcare, and education. We're going to put those numbers together, present it to our partners at other levels of government, and they're going to have to make a choice whether they want to give us our fair share or whether we continue to be ignored. If they do ignore us, there'll be a campaign waged at both the provincial and federal government, and it will be at their peril. It will be at their peril. They want to stay in government. They need to win seats in Brampton, and if they underfund us, I can tell you there'll be clouds on their horizon in the city of Brampton. In terms of immediate projects that I want to work on as well, let me just stress economic development is critical. People flee the city to go to work each day, and there are a number of ideas I have on businesses that I'd like to pitch and target to come to Brampton. You're going to have to stay tuned for that, but I've got a few ideas in mind of businesses that I think we could convince to make some investments in the city of Brampton. I need jobs here. We need jobs in Brampton. It's not, we just can't continue as a bedroom community. Obviously, I spoke a lot during this campaign about the imbalance between residential and non-residential. We have employment corridors that have lots of possibility for growth, but there's not the leadership there right now to fill those corridors, to fill those opportunities. And later today, I'm going to a meeting with an economic development team, staff at the city, to talk about my plans for economic development in the city, and it's about to get a lot more aggressive.
Good, well that's good to hear. So one last thing, I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk to basically your city as of, I think, December. So what would you like to tell the citizens of this city, the new mayor? What message would you like to impart?
That I love Brampton, that I absolutely love our city. I'm excited about our opportunity. I'm filled with hope for what lies ahead. As much as you may be frustrated right now, we're going to turn things around. And if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you have frustrations, don't view City Hall as a brick wall where you get no response. Call me. Shoot me a Facebook message. Call me on my cell phone. I'm an accessible mayor. My cell phone number is 416-434-8606. You can email me directly at patrick@votepatrickbrown.com. Those aren't my staff contact numbers. They're mine. I report to you. I report to the people of the city. You're my boss. I have 650,000 people that I report to in this city, and I want to serve you well. We're going to turn this city around. We're going to make it the economic engine of our province. This was the envy of Ontario, and you may forget that, but in the early 1980s, they talked about Bill Davis's Brampton as the envy of Ontario, and I'm determined to make sure we see those days again.
Well, thank you, Patrick, for your time. I know that basically you will respond to emails, text messages. You're probably one of the most accessible people on the social media. I know if someone sends out a tweet, you're on it like a dirty shirt. So that's one thing I do know. So for us at Brampton Focus, we're looking forward to see what you're going to be doing in the next 4 years. We'll be reporting on it like we always have. And we look forward to finding out what's going on at City Hall, and we'll track your progress. And when you were an MPP, we actually enjoyed having you on, and we enjoy talking to you on a regular basis. So thank you for your time.
My pleasure.